So, good question about helping and impulsiveness. So, this might be a common sense to a lot of people, but it's still unknown to others. So, I just thought I'd bring it up since it was a question as well from one of the listeners. Basically, just a piece of advice when you're counseling someone, if you're a Christian and you're counseling someone, or someone says to you, "Hey, I gotta tell you something, but could you please not say this to anyone else?" Whenever someone asks me that favor, I will never say yes. I never ever ever commit to confidentiality, because what if the person tells me something that requires government assistance or medical assistance or a doctor or some kind of special expertise or training or skill that I don't have? If a person says, "Hey, I'm suicidal, don't tell anyone," if I'm not equipped to handle that situation, I gotta talk to someone, right? I gotta consult someone who knows what to do. So the first piece of advice is never ever say yes to someone who asks for complete secrecy and complete confidentiality. Instead, I would say this. I would just say to the person, "Bro, the fact that you're coming to me means you trust me, and I appreciate your trust, and you know that I will not break your trust." So instead of me promising you I'll never say, tell anyone or talk to anyone about whatever you're gonna tell me, could you just trust me enough to know that I would never break your trust, and if ever I need to talk to someone, it's for your good? And normally they would say yes, because if they're genuinely looking for help, they would agree to that because they trust you. When someone does not agree to that, then that means they don't really want help. They just want someone to agree with them, to say yes, and things like that. And that's not really going to be helpful. The second thing I would say is when someone needs help or asks for help, be very careful and be very discerning. The Bible tells us that we're supposed to be as wise as serpents, yet as innocent as doves, and not the other way around. We're not supposed to be as innocent as serpents, which makes us guilty, and then as wise as doves, which makes us kind of dumb, right? What do I mean by that? Sometimes some people, they go to church and ask for help, and they put on this really wonderful dramatic or tell you a drama story or dramatic performance about how they're persecuted as a Christian and all that stuff, to later find out that they've done this to other churches and they've scammed so many other churches. Others also would say, "Oh, I really need your help, I need your help," and then you commit right away. "Sure, I'll help you," and then you realize it's way above your level of skill set. Like, for example, someone says to you, "Hey, I need your help, I just want to hear the gospel." Okay, you want to preach the gospel to the person, that's great. And then the person also says, "Oh, I'm also financially broke, and my husband is cheating on me, and I want to kill myself. I also want to kill him. I have rage issues with my infant daughter, and I'm considering becoming Buddhist." These are some issues that if you're not equipped to deal with, you can't just say, "Okay, I'm just going to preach the gospel to you and that's it." Because when you preach the gospel to them, you're not even sure if they're saying yes or that they're willing to listen to you because they want the gospel, or they're telling you what you want to hear. So you keep going and meeting them and giving them money and giving them, emotional support that, for all you know, you're enabling their issues instead of solving or fixing or truly helping their issues in a biblical way. So in those cases, I would just say, I would love to let you know the gospel, and here are a few links to some YouTube videos on the gospel that's presented very well. But let me also recommend that you talk to so and so and so and so and so and so, or maybe recommend them to another church which might be bigger, might have more resources, and might have people who do have the training and the skills to minister to them in a very wise, biblical, practical way. So those are some things you might really want to think of. And lastly, when you're trying to help, I would always say this: the Bible actually encourages us to help those in need, especially those of the household of faith. Meaning, your priority is to your fellow Christian, fellow believer. And I would go one step further and say that the Bible actually teaches us to, as churches, to practice local church membership and covenant membership. So that means focus more on formal church members and not church visitors or church guests, right? So if there's like two Christians asking for your help, one is from your local church and is a formal covenant member and the other is not, then I would help those people first. They get priority, they get my attention, of course. Why? You know, this may sound counterintuitive until you start to really think of church as family. If I had a friend who came to me with a problem, right? And my younger brother would come to me with a problem. My younger brother gets my attention first. Same if some person comes to me for some help, and a family member, a dad, mom, cousin, relative comes to me for help, my family comes first. And so when we start to think of that as church, that church is your spiritual family, becomes easy. The choice isn't that difficult. It's not very confusing at all, actually. One last thing. When it comes to helping and listening and trusting, if you've got covenant members in your church and you hear some really, really weird, nasty, bad stuff about covenant members, now you got to know. Or this is just me, all right? This is just me. I'm not going to say that this is really what the Bible insists, but this is me. Based on all these biblical principles, I know my covenant brother, I know my covenant sister, I know their personalities, I know their backgrounds, I know who they are, I know what they've done, I know how they live. We have transparency with one another, and some random stranger who I don't know from Adam just comes up to me and says, oh, you know, you're a church member, blah, 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 did this and did that. You know, the first instinct I would have is to say, I don't know you. I have no idea who you are. I don't know you. What you're saying may have some proof to it, may have some substance. I have no idea, but it doesn't seem plausible based on how I know him or her and based on the fact that I don't know you. So I would just basically bring it up with my covenant brother or sister. And if they say, you know what, that's not true and all of that stuff, I'll drop it. I'm not even gonna go back to the other guy. Oh, you know, they said it's not true, and then so, oh, but this and that, and I have to go to my friend again. I'm just gonna drop it. Why? I'm not even gonna entertain that kind of issue, because if my covenant brother or sister is truly guilty, the Lord will expose and reveal that to us in His way, in His time. But it's not. I'm not gonna entertain accusation. I'm not gonna entertain gossip from people who don't really, have any bearing in our lives as a corporate body and as a spiritual family. So those are certain things that I would personally advise, or personally, those are the convictions that I have in my heart, because I know the golden rule as well, right? Like, don't treat others the way you want others to treat you, and do unto others the way you want them to do unto you. And so with those principles and those other biblical principles in mind, those are the things I would very strongly suggest that you consider and pray about. God bless you guys.